Hello and welcome back to another web development video. Today I wanted to cover coding bootcamp tips from a former instructor that I had at my bootcamp. He was kind enough to answer some of my questions in long form after I graduated my coding bootcamp. If you want to see the full context and text of this correspondence, you can go to my website, santamariacode.com, and it's underneath Coding Bootcamp Tips from a Former Instructor. So we'll jump into it. He was my instructor who covered Python in the year of 2018 to 2019. It was essentially December through January. And I'll just go through the questions that I had for him and cover his answers. So first up, I asked him what the right reasons are for learning how to code, and his response is that there isn't really a wrong reason to learn how to code. It's just that many people have to realize that not everybody's going to end up being a software engineer. And learning how to code, it should be fun. And if you've seen some of my videos, you'll know that I say this a lot, that coding should be fun. If you're not finding it fun in any sense ever, it's probably not for you. So it's not really a right reason or a wrong reason thing. It's more of, it should be fun. It doesn't have to be for you. And it's also important to celebrate the small steps. Okay. Second question I asked him, what can bootcamp students do to succeed in a bootcamp? So he gives me 3 reasons, okay? 1, they do as much independent study before the bootcamp as they could. 2, they set up their lives to work around the bootcamp schedule. And 3, they show up at every opportunity they can to meet with an instructor. So to run through these, he notes, not everybody's going to be a software engineer. And I could imagine being somebody that's an instructor, seeing all the people that don't make it through a bootcamp. I think that 50% of our class dropped out. And I think that was after, it was about 5 months long. It was more like 6, but I think that was after about 2 months. Almost 50% had dropped out. Maybe 3, maybe a custom 3, but it was pretty quick. They didn't even make it halfway. So grain of salt, not everybody's going to become an engineer, and that's okay. But the people that aren't successful in the boot camp, they could have done more independent study and more preparation before to realize that they're not as interested as they can be. So if you do a bunch of prep, basically you're doing work before the boot camp starts. You'll either, 1, you're more motivated, so you know this is something I want to do, and you're learning a lot along that way. And 2, you can realize this isn't for me, and that's okay. Also realizing, to come back to 2, realizing that working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week is nuts. And coding boot camps, that commitment is crazy. That's so much work. I did mine was an online boot camp. It was probably 40 to 50 hours worth of work a week, crammed into the course that you could do online, and I could do about 30 a week because I was working full time. And it was nuts. It was really difficult and it was really hard. And one of the reasons that I was able to get through it is because 1, I really wanted to. I really love coding. And 2, I did a lot of prep work. I'd been trying to learn by myself for a long time. So I had a decent step up on some language fundamentals and stuff like that. But I was very lost when it came to frameworks. And then 3, being able to use instructors. So talking to them, getting their help to go through things. It's a really big deal. They're there because they like talking about code. So if you decide that you do want to go to a boot camp, just remember, right, the 3 reasons. Study a bunch on your own. Set up your lives to work around that crazy work schedule. It's a lot of work. And then 3, talk to the instructors as much as you can and learn as much as you can, especially from them. They're going to help you out. They really will. He also notes that any content in a boot camp, it can be found online or in a library. So just something to think about. It's curated content and it's there to help you. The instructors are there to help you, and the way it's presented is there to help you learn. But you can definitely go to YouTube or Udemy or a library and just read about all sorts of stuff and get familiar before you enter a boot camp. Okay. Next question I had for him is, what sort of preparation advice do you give to incoming students? He writes, to start simple and practice, and to not expect that you're going to go from 0 to engineer in 3 to 6 months. It's a much longer process, and you should take a step back and find out if you like it. Practice, 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 practice. You're going to see this in several more of his answers here. Basically, it's practice, make sure that you like it. Practice to make sure you like it. That's basically his mantra. If you haven't picked it up already, that's what he's basically trying to tell me through this. So some steps that he gives, some direct steps that he gives that you can take to prepare to learn in a coding boot camp. Get a text editor for free, like VS Code. You can learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript on w3schools.com. It's a great resource, but also if you see my videos, YouTube, Udemy, there's a ton of resources out there. Next, go through algorithms wherever you can find them. All those places, they're all over the place. If you have an engineer in your network, or if you can get in contact, like on Twitter is a great place, Reddit's a great place to try to find some people that are willing to help kind of tutor you, mentor you a little bit, help you out when you get stuck. You want to try to do that. And then the biggest thing he tells me in this answer is figure out how to Google. This is the biggest thing, right? You're going to Google your own specific errors. And every time that you have an issue in a framework or with an algorithm, you probably can find an answer to that on Google if somebody's already covered it. The hard part is finding out where to look, how to get it, or finding out who to ask and all those things. So be specific when you search those things, right? So do something like how to set a variable in JavaScript, not Fibonacci solution JavaScript, right? Be specific when you're trying to figure out those things. You could probably find the solution to it, but it's probably going to be a different solution than yours. Stack Overflow is your friend, especially when it comes to like framework errors and stuff like that. So those are the direct steps that he gives to prepare for a coding bootcamp. You go through those things, basically go out there, practice, make sure you like it, and try to do as much homework as you can first. Okay, next question I had for him. Best tip for people learning how to code. And he's going to write back, as you guessed, practice, 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 practice fearlessly. The only way you're going to get it to stick and get over your fear of being wrong is to write code. Okay, you got to write code. And if you get something wrong, you got to learn why you're wrong and try to figure it out, how to do it right in the future. The way he says to practice is to constantly make new projects. If you're a complete beginner, that's very difficult, very, very difficult. That's the biggest barrier you're going to have is how do I even get the code from a text editor or CodePen to show up live on a web page somewhere. CodePen's great for that, by the way. If you haven't been on CodePen, check it out, and you can literally write HTML and CSS and JavaScript and have a nice little window at the bottom, and it'll show up all sorts of cool results for you. So practice, practice, practice. Then make a lot of projects, right? Just keep making projects and make sure that you're having fun with them, and that make sure that they're something useful and interesting to you. If they're not useful or interesting to you, then you're going to burn out and you're not going to be as interested, and you're just not going to do it. But if you are, then you're going to stick with that project and you're going to get it done. So that means if you like games, I know a lot of people like games that want to get in development, make yourself a little game. If you like puzzles and algorithms and math, roll with the algorithms. You like building stuff like me, get into frameworks and start building cool stuff. Okay. The lastly he's going to say about this is if you're taking on a big project, you got to take on responsibility of that project to rewrite it as you learn. So if in that project you get halfway done with it and you're like, wow, I wrote a lot of bad code in here, that's okay. Just go back and fix those things. Get rid of your code comments, all that stuff, make sure you get it live. Okay. Next question. I asked him how students can get a job after learning how to program. And he writes back that a boot camp is not the end of your training. Every engineer at every level has a lot to learn. Now, when you go into an interview, be curious. It doesn't show weakness, it shows strength. and you're going to have to be willing to learn and put yourself out there. But there's no silver bullet when it comes to the job hunt. What you want to do is you want to try to set yourself up for success, be strong in your interview, practice a ton, practice interviewing, practice your code. You need to know a lot about a lot of different things, especially in technical interview. But in technical interview, generally you're going to be doing algorithms, so you definitely are going to need to focus on algorithms. You don't have to nail every single one they're asked. You are more likely going to need to be able to put your best foot forward and be willing to take on feedback and criticism and try to incorporate that into your algorithm as you go. And other than that, it's just staying with it and being relentless and knowing that it's okay to fail and that you're probably not going to get hired the first interview you get. That's okay. You take that experience, move on to the next one. It's what happened with me. It's what happens with thousands and thousands of people. He also writes, one final note is that you can't train somebody to be a senior engineer. The only difference between a mid-level engineer and a senior engineer is experience, and there's really only one way to get that experience is practice, practice, practice. Now, you're probably not going to get hired as a mid-level engineer. I know everybody wants to start out at a higher tier. They don't want to start at the bottom, the junior level. I'm on the junior level. I'm okay with that. I'm very happy with where I am. I practice a ton of code. I get to write a lot of stuff. I get to do a lot of cool things. It's okay to be a junior engineer. It's okay to be a junior engineer in your 30s. It's okay to be a junior engineer in your late 20s. Not a big deal. Okay, but remember, practice, practice, practice. That's basically what his entire mantra of this entire Q&A session I had with him. I also want to note that the last thing he wrote to me in here is that he wishes everybody best of luck on their journeys, and he hopes that you have the courage to write a lot of bad code and know that it's eventually going to get better. Anyway, all of this is really, really, really great information and tips that I got on him. I hope you enjoyed this type of content. Like I said, if you want to read the full transcript of this interview, santamariacode.com and search for Coding Bootcamp tips from a former instructor. This should come up right away. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helps you, and I hope that you practice, practice, practice. And if you like this type of content, go ahead and give me a subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.